CNN epically, infamously got the 2016 election wrong. They conducted all these polls and did all this analysis showing just how much Hillary Clinton was not only going to win, but win by a landslide. They were so confident, and yet they still got it so wrong. So you'd think they'd be taking a different approach to the 2020 election and maybe not rely on those same polls, but nope, you'd be wrong, because they're already back at it. They just released a new poll which found that 54% of Americans believe Trump will lose in 2020. And while doing a segment on the poll, CNN's Brianna Keilar acted like this was some amazing fact, like, whoa, Trump better watch out. But then she also said that the same poll was conducted at the same point in Obama's first term, and the results were the same. As in 2010, 54% of Americans believed Obama would lose in 2012. And then she had on CNN's political director, David Chalian, to discuss the idiocy. And Brianna actually starts out by saying, yeah, so since Obama won, maybe these polls aren't to be trusted. And then David says, yeah, well, we shouldn't put a bunch of weight on this data, but it's not supposed to be predictive. It's just a snapshot of right now. People thinking about 2020, do they think Trump will be elected? So he admits the poll is basically a bunch of nonsense. They do a little deeper dive into the numbers after that too, pointing out how 79% of Republicans say Trump will win, while 87% of Democrats say he won't. And then they laugh a little and talk about wishful thinking and how respondents are saying what they want to happen, not necessarily what will happen. So they found another way to say how the poll was partisan and meaningless. So they both agreed that the poll was pretty much fake news, and yet here they are, David and Brianna, senior people at CNN, talking about the poll on air anyway. This is the news network that is all about fighting fake news, supposedly. This is the network who is trying to tell everyone that they only report on facts and that facts come first. They've made a ton of commercials about that, but then they do a segment on a poll to try and make things look bad for Trump, even though they know the poll is straight up fake news. No matter what you think of Trump, it's pretty obvious what CNN thinks, and they'll stop at nothing to bash him. If they keep it up, they're bound to help him get reelected.
21st Century Fox has proposed selling off Sky News to Disney. Disney, in turn, will buy the bulk of Murdoch's Fox for $52.4 billion. Comcast is expected to enter a bidding war with Disney for control of Sky. The move is meant to get around a ruling by the United Kingdom's Competition and Markets Authority, which ruled Fox's buyout of Sky was not in the public interest. Sky News is consumed by almost a third of the United Kingdom's population across newspapers, radio, television, and the internet. For more on this merger, we go to legal and media analyst Lionel. Lionel, nice to have you with us tonight. I really don't know where the president is on this. We'll put that aside for just a moment, but what is your big concern here as this deal is in the courts?
Well, what's fascinating, Ed, is how the Competitions and Mergers Authority work. There's a thing called ring fencing, which is an interesting concept. And what Fox is suggesting is, okay, if the Disney purchase doesn't work, we'll take Sky News, but we'll take the Sky News portion of Sky, and we'll ring fence it, as they call it. We'll segregate it. We'll fund it for 15 years. We'll have no say in any of the control, any of the editorial policy. It will remain a separate entity unto its own. It'll be ring fenced for 15 years. We'll fund it, and we, on a scout's honor, will have no influence whatsoever in the editorial policy of this, even though we get to pick the head, basically, of Sky.
Well, that being considered what you just said, I think you can easily find a lot of people on the Bernie Sanders campaign that think that MSNBC was rooting pretty hard for Hillary Clinton. Their entire primetime lineup, and those who were not rooting for Hillary Clinton, many were shown the door. The point here is that it does come down from the front office. And when you have power and you can control, then there's the political influence. Is that the fear here?
Absolutely. And what I admire so much about the UK is they make no bones about it. American laws and American leadership is more subtle. We're saying, well, we're worrying about perhaps there might be an undue influence. But you're absolutely correct in this. And Ed, look at it this way. Think about all of the mergers we're talking about, AT&T and Time Warner. We're talking about also right now CBS and Viacom. We're now talking about also a possible bust-up of Facebook and social media. Never since the days of Teddy Roosevelt and trust busting have we been so consumed for the first time with these corporate Goliaths, and how, in this particular case, how it affects free speech and the dissemination of news for everyone.
Well, this is a global deal. Where do you think the president stands on this?
The president, I think, is so careful. He does not like huge corporate expansion that could, dare I say, ultimately affect him negatively in the future. Watch how he plays this.
Lionel, always a pleasure. Thank you for your time tonight.
Hello, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing. The presence of American troops in Syria is a constant relief to Israel. That's because the soldiers have not only been helping Kurdish and Arab forces defeat the Islamic State, but also because America is committed to keeping other enemies away from Israel's doorstep too. That buffer was thrown up in the air, though, just a few days ago when President Trump announced that, quote, "we'll be coming out of Syria, like, very soon," end quote. He and Prime Minister Netanyahu have just held a late-night phone call to discuss what could be a big change in U.S. foreign strategy. If America were to pull out its forces, as Trump has consistently lobbied for against the United States military's advice, it would add to a growing power vacuum in the region. Russian involvement in Syria has ramped up in recent years, some say helping provide cover for Iran to increasingly gain a foothold in the war-torn region. This was undoubtedly the heart of Netanyahu and Trump's talk. Meanwhile, the presidents of Iran, Turkey, and Russia are meeting today to discuss the very same issue, but likely from another angle entirely. The changing landscape in Syria could open the floodgates for enemy soldiers, even missiles, within striking range of the Jewish state. And with mixed messages and confusion from the White House, it remains unclear how or if America will be there to help should disaster strike. By canceling a landmark deal with the United Nations mere hours after praising it, the fate of nearly 40,000 African asylum seekers living in Israel is once again a big question mark. We are hearing reports now that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not only seeking to reopen the Cholot detention center, but also plans to introduce a law making it illegal for the Supreme Court to block the deportations of thousands of men, women, and children, even if it's done against their wills. This is more or less a return to the government's original mass deportation plan. Though Netanyahu has branded this community as illegal infiltrators, the vast majority are Christians from Eritrea and Sudan and are widely accepted as legal refugees throughout the developed world. That's why the plan elicited moral outrage both inside Israel and abroad, including from doctors, former diplomats, top rabbis, and even Holocaust survivors. Regardless, Netanyahu blames the collapse of that deal on foreign pressures against Rwanda, the country now named as the place where asylum seekers would have been deported to. Other reports, however, show that the Israeli courts were those who thwarted the plan because they required Rwanda to assure the safety of deportees. Rwanda, though, has consistently come under fire for facilitating human trafficking and extortion of refugees deported from third-party countries, including dozens of cases from Israel. Netanyahu's reversal on a UN agreement, which would have seen half the country's migrants safely resettled to Western countries, has been widely seen as a political move to keep his coalition appeased. To that end, the government is now poised to rewrite the law, effectively removing the judicial system from the equation. Turning now to the United Nations for help, Palestinian Ambassador Riyad Mansour is claiming that Israel has adopted a shoot-to-kill policy against what he alleges are peaceful protesters along the Gaza border. He went on to accuse Israel of violating international law and human rights, quote, intentionally, grossly, and systematically, end quote. Indeed, 17 Palestinians have been confirmed killed in clashes along the Gaza border, but while Palestinian officials claim that those killed were conducting peaceful protests, Israel has alleged that anyone shot dead was engaging in violence. IDF forces have even released video footage from the border and photos of 10 of the suspects killed, showing them to be operatives of Hamas and other terror groups. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman, for his part, has stated that, quote, anyone who comes close to the fence endangers his life, and I suggest that the people of Gaza invest their efforts not in protests against Israel, but in changing the leadership within the Strip, end quote. Mass deportations along the barrier between Israel and the Gaza Strip in at least 6 different locations began last Friday, when Hamas organized over 30,000 Palestinians for Land Day. The protests are slated to continue for 6 weeks, ending on Israel's Independence Day, or the Nakba as the Palestinians call it, meaning the catastrophe. So far, the protests have been marked by attempts to breach and damage the border fence, throwing Molotov cocktails and stones, burning tires, and shootings. The IDF has responded with crowd dispersal methods and targeted sniper fire.
All right, I had a friend of the ministry let me know about this. Fundamentalist Baptist pastor arrested on charges he failed to report child abuse. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but it's talking about this Robert A. Ross guy, pastor of Open Door Baptist Church in Mesquite. I'm not sure if there's any relation with him to Bob Ross, the Calvinist guy that Ruckman debated different times. I don't know. But here he is right there, covering up child abuse in his Babel building there. I mean, like I've said, this stuff happens all the time. And then the media uses this to attack all sorts of things that, Bible believers stand for. The King James Bible says, here it says, Open Doors, an independent fundamental Baptist congregation. It reads the King James Bible and believes every word of the Bible is directly inspired by God. You see how the media loves to pounce on this thing? And it goes down through here. I'm not going to get into it, the whole deal, like I said, but just wanted to do a real quick little report on this. Trying to see where it is here. They talk about the bus ministry. That's Jack Hyles stuff, and they're talking about the fleet of school buses painted with the church logo. Later on, it talks about the one guy was giving candy to children. Again, a Jack Hyles thing. The Liberty Baptist Church I used to attend, and I was involved there, very heavily involved there with ministry type of stuff. They had a bus ministry, and they gave candy to the children and the whole deal. And there was sexual perversion stuff there at Liberty Baptist Church. It just is an epidemic with these Baptist churches. You meet in a pagan temple that was used for sexual rituals in the 1st century. Pagan temples and things, the Parthenons, Greek Parthenons. You put an obelisk on top to call a steeple. You're going to have all kinds of problems. So just again, another story of a Baptist, King James only Baptist church that is just, all kinds of perversion and everything else. And like I said, I think it's probably associated with Jack Hyles. I looked into this guy, Robert Ross, a little bit, trying to see if he's a graduate of Hyles Anderson College, and I couldn't find anything. And I thought, I'm not going to spend much time on this because I have so much else to do. But just to prove it again, get out of these Baptist churches. They're wicked.
Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Recha, Kodash. Welcome to another Hebrew lesson. This is 10 new words. Today's date is March 27, 2018. And what you're looking at in front of you is the Lashon Kodash, or the Paleo Hebrew. These are all the Hebrew characters. And we're just going to get right into it. The first word that you see here is the word palal. That's a pa, la, and the la. As you can see here, you have the pa and then the la. Okay, and then when you go to different, like when you go to the Paleo Hebrew and different, of the writings, they're like, some of them are a little different. they're arranged a little different, but this is more, what it is. All right, so the word is palal. Now the word palal is prayer, but it really is pray. All right, it's pray. And if you wanted to say prayer, it would be tha, pa, la. Okay, and I'm gonna show you that. This is 2 Samuel 7, and I started 25. And now, O Lord, power, Yahweh, the word that thou hast spoken concerning thy servant and concerning his house, establish it forever, and do as thou hast said. And let thy name be magnified forever, saying, see, because the Lord's name is to be magnified forever. saying, the Lord of hosts, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, is the power over over Israel, and let the house of thy servant David be established before thee. For thou, O Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai of hosts, power of Israel, has revealed to thy servant, saying, I will build thee an house. Therefore hath thy servant found in his heart to pray this prayer unto thee. So now when you scroll down through here, we're looking for the word pray or prayer. Now you have to hear the word pray. See, palal. So the word pray, palal, is a primitive root. H6419. It says to intervene, interpose, pray. Okay, so when we pray, you know, really Yahweh Shai becomes the lawyer, you know, between the Most High and us. So these prayers is what intervenes on our behalf, but they have to go through Yahweh Shai now, because he made the ultimate sacrifice for us. So the word is to intervene, interpose, pray, to mediate, judge, to intercede, to pray. All right, and then you happen to have in this same verse, you have the word pray and you have the word prayer. As you can see here, thapalah. Thapalah comes from the root word palal, which we just read, which means to pray. It says prayer, prayer, pray, a prayer, house of prayer, hear prayer. Okay, so pretty much this is to pray, but to pray in motion. Like you have the word tha here, right, is thou, and then palah is pray, you know. So thou pray, tha palah, and which goes back to the root word palal. Now I don't know if it may go back to the word pa, the pa and the ha, which is mouth, because you use your mouth to pray, you know, but you could also pray in the spirit, you know, in your mind. Okay, but that's just, you know, something that came to mind. Not saying that that's gospel, but the word for pray is palal, and the word for prayer, when you pray and it's in motion, tha palah, thou pray. All right, so that was the first word. Second word is kahan. All right, now the word kahan is priest. All right, that's the word for priest. Kahan is priest. Like you have these Edomites, their name's Cohen, or they might call themselves Cohen. You know, that's the way they say it. That's a priest, but it's really Kahan. That's how you pronounce it, Kahan, which is priest. So let's go from there to Genesis 14:18. It says, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High Power. Now the word Melchizedek, as you can see here, well, you got it right here, Malakia Tazadak. So Malakia Tazadak is my king righteous. My king righteous. Because Malak Tazadak is righteous king, or king righteous. You know, but this one here is Malakia Tazadak. So it's king of righteousness. What you can read about that in Hebrews, the 7th chapter. Okay, then you have the word king here again, Malak. You have the word Salem, which is Shalom, which is peace. All right, but the word we're looking for is the word priest. H3548, Kahan. There you go, Kahan. All right, it says priest, principal officer or chief ruler, priest, king, Melchizedek, Messiah, pagan priest, priest of Yahweh, Levitical priest, Zadokite priest, Aaronic priest, the high priest. So the word for priest is the word Kahan. Okay. Now the next word I want to get into, because this word, brothers pronounce it wrong. All right. This is the word shalach, right? And I'm explaining why. Shalach, which is send. Okay? The word shalach is send. Now I'm gonna deal with this word, and then I'm gonna deal with another word that sounds similar to this word, and that other word is the one that brothers mispronounce. They say, instead of saying Like if you say forgive me or excuse me, it's salach, yeah, or salach. But some brothers say shalach, and it's not shalach, because shalach means to send. So I'm gonna, go into this, and then I'll go to the next one, and we'll jump back and forth. Now, so this is Genesis 24:6. And Abraham said unto him, beware thou that thou bring not my son thither again. That's dealing with Isaac. The Lord power of heaven, which took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and which spake unto me, and that sware unto me, saying, unto thy seed will I give this land, he shall send his angel before thee, and thou shalt take a wife unto my son from thence. Okay, this is when Abraham was making an oath with his servant to bring Isaac to one of his family members that were left in the land of Assyria to get him a wife. All right, so when you look up the word send here, she shall send his angel. The word is H7971, shalach. And the word shalach is to send away, to let go, stretch out, to send, to stretch out, extend, direct, to send away, to let loose. So pretty much to send or to be sent. So the word for send is the word shalach. Like when we say the prayers, for the Lord to send evils, or to send blessings, shalach, So that's the word to send. Now the next word that you have here is salach, okay, which means forgive or excuse, okay. And then brothers, sometimes when they say salach or salakia, they'll say shalach. That's not how you say it. Shalach is to send, salach is to forgive. They kind of almost spell similar, but they pronounce different, because this is a sha and this is a sa. Matter of fact, this is a sa and this is a sha. See, it's two different sounds. It's a sha and a sa, and that's the word shalach has a sha, and the word salach has the sa. Okay, and the word salach is to forgive or excuse. Let me turn it down a little bit. All right. So let's go to the scriptures and show you that. This is 1 Kings 8:33. This is a prayer of Solomon. It says, when thy people Israel be smitten down before the enemy, because they have sinned against thee, and shall turn again to thee, and confess thy name, and pray, and make supplications unto thee in this house, then hear thou in heaven, and forgive the sin of thy people Israel, and bring them again unto the land which thou gavest unto their fathers. Okay, so the word that we're looking for is forgive. All right, right here, the word forgive. And when you scroll down, you look at the word forgive, and you have what? H5545, salach, to forgive, pardon, to be forgiven. Okay, to spare. So that's what the word means. So you see, this word here is shalach, H7971. Shalach is to send. H5545, salach is to forgive. Shalach, send. Salach, forgive. Okay, so you brothers can work on that. And another thing, when brothers say Racha Kodash, it's Racha Kodash. Some brothers, when they say it, they say Kadash. That's what you're saying, Kadash, Racha Kadash. It's Racha Kodash. Racha Kodash, not Kadash. Kodash. Okay? So, just another, another nugget, to throw in there. All right, so now the next word we're going to deal with is the Lashon Kodash, or the Hebrew word Padah. Okay? Now the word Padah means to redeem. Okay? This is a one way of saying redeem. There's other ways, but this is one of the words that is used for the word redeem. Okay, pada, to redeem. Now let's go here to Psalms 26, and I'll start at 8. Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house, and the place where thine honor dwelleth. Matter of fact, this is a psalm of King David. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men, in whose hand is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in mine integrity. Redeem me and be merciful unto me. All right, so the word redeem there, as you scroll down, is what? H6299, pada, pada. To ransom, redeem, rescue, deliver. To ransom, to be ransomed, to allow one to be ransomed, redeemed. Okay, so that's how you say the word redeem or redeemed in the Hebrew, pada. Okay, that's the word redeem. All right, so now let's move on to the next word. Next word is, excuse me, zakar. And the word zakar means to remember. Like you have the name Zachariah, which is Zechariah, means to remember Yahweh, or Yahweh remembers. You know, really Yahweh remembers. Okay, so zakar is to remember. Re is back, and member is like mind, to bring back to mind. Okay, so that's really what the name Zachariah or Zechariah means, you know, for Yahweh to remember. You know, like basically remember us and have mercy upon us. All right, so we'll go from there to Genesis 9 and 15. And this is heavy. I'm going to start at 12 because this is after the flood. You know, after the Lord destroyed the earth by water and destroyed every living thing back then, besides the Noah and his 3 sons and their 4 wives. This is what the Lord made as an agreement, that he would never again destroy the earth by water. He didn't say fire though. Genesis 9 and 12. And the power said, this is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud. Now let me see what it says here for bow. Bow. Quashath. Bow for hunting, battle, bowmen, archers, bow, figurative might, rainbow. Now this could be used for an actual bow where you shoot the arrow from. But if you look at the rainbow is in an arch, in an arch fashion, you know. Let's go to images. See, the rainbow is in an arch fashion. Same thing as a bow. When you have a bow is in an arch fashion, and you shoot your arrow from the bow. Okay, and these bastards, these devils, and took this holy symbol and turned it to a goddamn faggot symbol. Right? I bet you this is a fucking homosexual banner right there. You know. They done took what was righteous thing and turned it into some homosexual thing, man. Fucking devils. All right. So the word quashath is the word for bow. All right. Which, you know, that was just something extra. So I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token or for a sign of the covenant or the agreement between me and the earth. So the Lord said he will no longer destroy the earth by water. And it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And that's why usually, like after it rains, you would see the bow, because the Lord is saying, look, I'm not going to destroy the earth, you know, and this is my covenant, you know. That's why you see the rainbow. It says, and I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all the earth. So that was the agreement. All right, so now the word that we're dealing with is the word zakar, which is remember. H2112, the word zakar, right? It means to remember, recall, call to mind, to remember, recall, to be brought to remembrance, be remembered, be thought of, be brought to mind, to cause to remember, remind. So pretty much is to remember, to bring back to mind, bring back to the memory, you know, so the Lord would remember not to destroy the earth by water, because he has his rainbow, and also to let us know that, look, he's still, because the Most High is a man of his word. All right. Now, seeing that I'm in here, and there's a couple of words here that pop up, that are popping, so we're going to deal with those too. Covenant. All right. So it says my covenant, but the word for covenant itself is barayath. Barayath. Covenant, alliance, pledge between men, treaty, alliance, league, man to man, you know, between the Most High and man. So it's an agreement, a testament. Barayath. Okay. Now it says my covenant. So let's see. Wa zakarthaya ath barayathya. Now check this out. Wa zakarthaya. Wa is and. Zakar is remember. And usually when you see this tha and the ya, thaya, at the end of a word, that's like a futuristic thing. You know, it's a future tense. So the Lord saying, I will remember. Okay? So this is like a future. That's why it says, and I will remember. Because it's future. Wa and zakar, remember. Thaya makes it futuristic. That's just a little advanced. Ath is with. Okay? And then barayath is a covenant or agreement, and then the ya is my. Barayath ya, my covenant or my agreement. Okay. Let's see. There was another one that I saw. Okay, maybe it wasn't in this verse. Maybe it was in the verse above that. Now let's go to the 16th verse, because I know there's one right here. Every living or living. Chaya. Chaya. Chaya is life, living, alive, green, flowing, fresh of water, lively, active of man, reviving of the springtime. So it really is life. Okay, so the word chaya is life. You know, like those bastards, so-called Jews. I don't know if they got that from us, l'chaim, to life. You know, which I'm not sure. I mean, I never really looked it up, but l'chaim could be the plural way. Chayim could be the plural way of saying life. You know, but that's where they got it from. It says every living. So you got the word chaya. Let's see. Let me see if they have. Yeah, they just have chaya, which is life. Okay, so I mean, it wouldn't, you know, got some extra words out of this verse, but this verse had some good words in it. All right, so the next one is shawab, and the Hebrew word shawab, which we've dealt with before, means to return. Okay. The word shawab means to return. You have Genesis 3:17, and unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also, and so the Lord pretty much cursed the ground for what Adam did. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat herbs of the field. Why? Because from that point on, man started dying. So we needed those herbs to heal our body and to help keep our immune system healthy. But prior to that, we didn't have to do that, because we lived forever, and the fruits that we ate and the foods that we ate sustained us. You know, it says, in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it was thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. So now let's go there before I deal with that. The word return, H7725, shawab. It says to return, turn back, to turn back, return, to turn back, to return, come or go back. So pretty much in repetition. So pretty much to turn back or to turn, right? So Adam and men were created of the ground. For out of it thou was taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. So the dust, the body is going back to the earth or to the ground. Why? Because it came from the ground. So it makes sense that it will return back to the ground, right? Now, when you go here to Isaiah 6 and 9, and he said, go and tell his people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, dealing with the children of Israel. And see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed. Now the word for convert, when you scroll down, is the word shawab, H7725, the same word. So the same thing as the dust or the body returns back to the dust because it came from the dust. If the Lord heals, if Israel understands and hears and listens, they'll be able to return back to their former state. Because how can you return to something you were never from? How can a body return back to the dust if it never came from the dust? Same thing as how can somebody come back to the law, statutes, and commandments that the Lord gave to Israel if they were never given it to begin with? See, so that word shawab, or return, convert, that's a very heavy word, you know. So no, this is, I had done a lesson on this before, on this particular verse here, you know, dealing with returning. Or so the word for return is shawab. Okay. So now moving on to the next word. The next word is the Hebrew word, or the Lashawan Kodash word for yum, and the word yum means sea. Okay, like the sea. So let's go to Genesis 1:26. And the power said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And when you read through here, you scroll down to the word sea, and you have what? H3220, which is the word yum. Yum. Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, Dead Sea, Sea of Galilee, Sea General, Mighty River, Now Sea. So sometimes a sea, even though this is a river, sometimes when the scriptures speak about certain bodies of water, it calls it sea. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's an actual sea, but sometimes where there should be where it should say river, it'll just say sea, and it's speaking about a body of water that's called the river. Okay, the sea, the great basin in the temple court, seaward, westward. Okay, so that's the word for yum, is sea. Okay, like the sea, you know, the a body of water. All right, so now let's move on. Next word is which brothers should know this one. The word is Zerai, which are three words, three letters, and the last two are connected. Za, Ra, and I. Za, Rai, which is seed. Okay, so let's go to the same book, Genesis 1 and 11, and it says, and the power said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. You know, so now today you have Monsanto and other places that create fruits and vegetables without seeds. Okay, and that's off, because the Lord created everything to have seeds in it. All right, so as you scroll down through here, you look at the word seed, and the word seed is Zerai, H2233, Zerai, seed, sowing, offspring, a sowing, seed, semen, virile, offspring, descendants, posterity, children of moral quality, a practitioner of righteousness, sowing time. So pretty much seed, you know, it could be applied to a seed that you plant in the earth. It could be applied to semen, which is also seed, and it could also be applied to the word. All right, because the scriptures say that the seed is the word of the Most High, you know. But the bottom line is, seed causes things to grow, and when you take the seeds out of a particular fruit or vegetable, then that vegetable is not going to produce the nutrients that it should, because it's artificial. It's not real. All right, so the word seed, every fruit out there should have its own seed. All right, so the word for seed is zerai. And the last word on the list is the Hebrew word kabash, which the word kabash is sheep. Okay, kabash is sheep. All right, so now let's go from there to Exodus 12:5. This is dealing with the ordinances of the Passover, and the 5th verse tells you what type of animal you would sacrifice and eat that night. Exodus 12:5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. All right. So now you have, well, let's just deal with it. Lamb. Lamb is H7716 shah. And it says it's from the root word. It says probably from sha'ah, through the idea of pushing out to graze. One of a flock, lamb, sheep, goat, young goat, sheep, goat, flock. So it's a lamb. Okay, so the lamb that you're supposed to take, which is of a year old, is of from among the sheep, right? And it says you shall take it out from the sheep, which is the word. This is the word we're dealing with. Kabash, H3532. Kabash, lamb, sheep, young ram. All right. So this lamb or this sheep, that's the word for sheep. Kabash, and then you have goats, which is Izah, female goat, she goat, goat kid. You know, so you could have during the Passover, if you don't have access to lamb, you could also use goat. You know, and I believe the brothers out in Jamaica, it's hard for them to get lamb, so they use, during the Passover they use goat, which is lawful to do. You could do that. So that's been the 10 words in the Hebrew. You know, and some, you know, I'm trying to incorporate the being able to find these words in the Torah itself, you know, so so that you can get used to seeing the Syrian or Aramean script, and also the Paleo Hebrew, you know. So when you see this, you know, like you notice when I go to the words, like let's just use the last example we had, Kabash. You see how Kabash is spelled here. This is the ancient or the Paleo Hebrew, but when you go here, you see how it's in the Assyrian form, Kabash. You know, so you have to get used to both of these, both of the matter of fact, I have it here. You know, this is the Paleo Hebrew, the Assyrian script, and this is the Aramean or Syrian script, and you have to get used to both of them, because when you read the Torah, most Torahs are written in the Assyrian form. As you see here, they're all written in the Assyrian form, unless you go to the one that I had posted before, that has, you know, this, and it has the actual ancient Hebrew in it. Now, one last thing I want to mention, since I mentioned it at the live show yesterday, that there's a video on YouTube where this one particular individual that actually came up under Abba said in the video that you know, the Abba Bivens was studying the Tanakh, and a man came to him in a gray suit and showed him how to pronounce the Hebrew, and it pretty much said the ah in the bar. Yeah, now this damn phone is not allowing me to get the it's not allowing me to service out here sucks, brothers. It's not allowing me to pull up the video. I just wanted to pull it up on YouTube because I don't remember the name of it. But regardless, I mean, what I'll do is I'll post the link when I get a chance to do it, and I'll let you brothers see it. But he pretty much said that the angel came to Abba while he was studying the Torah, and he showed him how to pronounce, and he was like everything was and then you have the I sound, and then that's where we get our pronunciation from. You know, now some people are gonna believe that and some people don't. Everything that we believe is through faith anyway, regardless at the end of the day. But the guy was saying, I really couldn't get that. Why? Because it's too simple, it's too easy. But now if the white man gives you the pronunciation, then you'll accept it because it comes from the white man, you know. But it's inconceivable that an angel can come to a man and show him, give him certain mysteries of the scriptures. You know, they believe that a woman was walking down the street and then she just got pregnant out of nowhere, you know, and had a baby, but they won't believe that an angel can come to a man and give him the pronunciation of our language, you know. But hey, be it as it may, so what? You know, whether they hear, whether they forbear, we're going to tell them anyway. All right, so with that, I hope you brothers been edified. To the next time I say shalom.
Shalom. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh. Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakak Wadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of GMS, Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the elect, the house of David, the Bayath Dawadah. I'm the brother Zion. And this is going to be entitled, Blessed is he that readeth. Okay, I'm going to get a few precepts. Keep it short and sweet to the point. And so I'm going to start with Revelation 1 and 3. All right, it says, blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Okay, so blessed is he that readeth. Readeth what? Readeth the Holy Scriptures. Okay, because that's how you increase your learning. All right, and when you read, you have to read with the proper understanding. You have to be taught the right way. Okay, you have to be guided the right way by the right men of the Lord, men of Yahweh, men of Yahweh Shai. Okay, because you can't just pick up this Bible and just decide that you're going to read it like a Dr. Seuss book or some eloquent novel from front to back, and then you say, I read the Bible. You can't read the Bible like that. You have to read the Bible with understanding, for precept must be upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, as it is written by the prophet Isaiah. Okay, so you have to be taught the right way, and you have to read with understanding. All right, so back in Revelation 1 and 3, blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of the prophecy, of this prophecy. And that's the times that we're in, the time of prophecy. As it is written in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, and we always bring it out. Speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy. Okay, because prophecy is very important. Prophecy is written all through the Holy Scriptures. And keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. And what are those things that are written therein? The laws, the laws, statutes, and commandments. Okay, the high holy days which are written in the laws. Okay, things that the Apostle Paul wrote about. All right, things that the prophets wrote about, the prophecies. For the time is at hand, right? The end times, man. Okay, so it's very important to read the Holy Scriptures, man. Hey, and while I'm doing this video, you know, hey, I need to read more. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this lesson. Because, you know, when we do these, well, I guess I'm going to speak for myself. When I do these lessons, I'm really speaking to myself, man. The elder Yashawamba made that point. And I felt him when he said that. Really speaking to yourself, but it goes out to the brethren and they get edified as well. You know? This is the the book of Romans chapter 15 verse 4, and it reads, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." Right. And what were the things that were written aforetime? The Old Testament. Okay. Because you gotta, in order to understand history, you gotta read. You gotta go back into the Old Testament and read those stories that build up your faith. Okay. You gotta read those stories, man. You know, whatsoever things are written aforetime were written for our learning. How do you learn? You have to apply yourself and actually read the Holy Scriptures. You can't just go by what the apostles say. And they always push that. Go read for yourself. Because that's what people in the churches do, man. They just take whatever the pastor tells them and they accept it. They don't read for themselves. You gotta physically read for yourself, man. Okay? Romans 15:4, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." Right, because these scriptures, they comfort us, man. That's why this is what we know as the comforter. Okay? The Holy Scriptures. This is 2 Timothy 2:15. It says, study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So you have to study. And how do you study? You read. You can't study without reading, man. Okay? I mean, you can watch videos, but you can't really study. When you study, you're looking up things. Okay? You're reading things. All right? So going back to the topic of the video, reading alone, that's why it's written in Revelation 1:3, blessed is he that readeth. Because when you read, you become blessed and you increase your learning. All right? So you have to study, like it says in 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed. Right? Because if you ain't studying, you can mess around and get confounded, man. Somebody come up to you on the highways and the byways and confound you. That's why you got to be rooted in this thing, man. You got to be rooted. You got to have an unction from the Holy One that you know all things. Rightly dividing the word of truth. Right? You gotta know how to break these scriptures down, man. Okay? So reading is very important, Akim. This is the book of Proverbs 1:1. And it reads, "The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man, knowledge and discretion." Okay? "A wise man will hear and will increase learning. A man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel." And believe it or not, all that goes into reading. The second verse, to know wisdom and instruction. Where's the wisdom and instruction written? In the Holy Scriptures. Especially if you go to the book of Proverbs, the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, and the Apocrypha. Those are books of wisdom. Okay? And they give you instruction. Also, you can go to the laws, man. They give you instruction. And how to understand things, what to do and what not to do. That goes all into reading. Okay? So that's pretty much the point. I hope you brothers was edified. Blessed is he that readeth. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS, Great Millstone. And shalom to the house of David. All right, to the next lesson, I say shalom.
Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachak, Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to the elect of Israel. What is profanity and cursing? I have the definition of profane on www.etamonline.com. Profane, adjective. Mid-15th century, unecclesiastical, secular, from Old French profane, 12th century, and directly from Latin profanus, unholy, not consecrated. According to Barnhart, from profano, not admitted into the temple with the initiates. So profane means outside the temple. Okay, let me read that again. According to Barnhart, from profano, not admitted into the temple with the initiates. Literally out in front of the temple. From pro, before, from pi, root, per, one, forward, hence in front of, before, plus phano, ablative of phantom, temple. And that's the point. Okay, when you read at the bottom, it says sense of unholy, polluted is recorded from century or circa 1500, related profanely. And profane, that's where you get the word profanity. All right, so dealing with outside the temple, let's deal with that. Let's deal with those that are outside the temple, meaning people that are outside the temple. Okay, along with that, certain doctrine that is outside the temple, unholy doctrine. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 16, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected. For he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. So Esau, which is the father of the so-called white race, he is the original sellout. He sold his birthright to Jacob. Okay? And Jacob is the forefather of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. So we have the birthright. And that's why Esau hates us, but he sold his birthright. Which really in the spirit, it was never his to begin with. It was all according to the election of the Most High. And the Most High chose Jacob. But dealing with the scripture, lest there be any fornicator. Now, fornication is adultery. But you also have spiritual adultery, which is idolatry. Okay, the so-called white man is an idolater. He is a spiritual fornicator. They don't believe in the Most High. These Edomites don't believe in the Most High. They believe in Satan, okay? Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau. So, Esau, dealing with the so-called white man, you Edomites, you so-called white people, you are profane people, meaning you are outside the temple. So that means that you can't be delivered. You cannot be saved. Okay? And for you Israelites out there that teach that Esau can be saved, that's profanity. Because people like to say because we use rude language, that's profanity. That's wrong. Saying shit, damn, fuck, and all that, those are rude words. Apostle Paul said, though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge. So real profanity is dealing with someone or something that is outside the temple, outside of that which is holy. And when you deal with the temple is Israel. Okay? The Israelites are the temple. We are the temple. We are the holy people of the Most High. We are the people that the Lord placed his name upon. He gave us his name, his son's name. He gave us the covenants, the old and the first covenant. He gave us the promise, which is the kingdom of heaven. His son died for us. Okay, he gave his only begotten son for us to redeem us. Okay. Profanity is anyone or anything outside the temple, outside of that which is holy. And dealing with Esau, he's a profane person. No Edomites can be saved. I just read the scripture. he found no place of repentance. So Esau, the so-called white man, cannot repent. The Most High not dealing with them. No Edomites can be saved. All Edomites are going into slavery. They're going to be slaves in the kingdom of heaven. And after that 1,000-year period, they're going to be exterminated. Let's get some more dealing with profane. Get some more scriptures. Revelation chapter 11 verse 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. Their reed is a measuring stick, which is the Bible. And you have a rod, just like you have a shepherd, right? A shepherd guides the sheep with a rod. Okay? So the Bible is used to guide the Israelites. The Israelites are the sheep. And only Israel can be measured with this book. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit. Now let me read this. Revelation chapter 11 verse 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, which is the Bible. It tells you in Micah, feed thy people with thy rod and thy staff. And the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of the Most High, the Israelites, and the altar and them that worship therein, the initiates. Like we read in the definition, dealing with profane. Those outside the temple are profane. They're not admitted into the temple with the initiates. And it's going to prove it. Verse 2. But the court which is without the temple, without meaning outside the temple, leave out and measure it not. So in other words, the Bible isn't for the people that is outside the temple, Esau and the other nations. For it is given unto the Gentiles. You see that? They are without. They are outside this truth. They are without the covenant. Okay? They are unholy. They're heathens. It's not for them. But the court which is without the temple leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. Which 42 months, that is 3.5 years, which spiritually is 350 years, from 1620 till 1970. Esau and the other nations had us down. They had us in slavery, and we're still in slavery now, but they really had us in submission during that time period. But after 1970, we started waking up. Even Esau has a Time Life magazine that's called 1968. 1968, the year that changed the world, because all these different events happened in the late 60s. And one of those events is Abba Bivens, which is Elijah the prophet and John the Baptist coming back, him teaching the truth. So since the late 60s, early 70s, this truth has been coming out. All right? But it's not for the heathen. They are outside the temple. They are profane. You saying that an Edomite can be saved, that is profanity. You saying that any other nation besides the nation of Israel can be saved, that is profanity. You saying that Cornelius is an Edomite, that's profanity. You saying that Job is an Edomite, that's profanity. You saying that Esau is the Arabs. You saying that the so-called white man is Japhet, that's profanity. And the list goes on and on. You saying that the mark of the beast is Christianity, that's profanity. That's outside the temple. That's outside the truth. And the truth was only given to Israel. We are the temple. Okay? Now, let's deal with false doctrine, because dealing with cursing, to curse is to pray evil upon someone. And when you teach false doctrine, you're going to cause people to be destroyed if they listen to you. That's putting a curse on someone. All right? But also praying evil on someone, which, you know, when you read in the history, you had Balaam the Midianite. He was sent by Balak, the king of Moab, to curse Israel. Okay? To pray evil upon us and have us go off so the Most High could destroy us. So to curse is to put curses on someone. Let's get the definition. Curse, from thefreedictionary.com. Curse, noun, an appeal or prayer for evil or misfortune to befall someone or something. Evil or misfortune viewed as resulting from such an appeal. a source or cause of evil, a scourge. Number 3, a profane word or phrase. Yeah, so basically dealing with cursing, that's praying evil on someone, but also you saying something that is profane. False doctrine. Let's prove it. Galatians chapter 1 and verse 6. I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Hamashiach unto another gospel, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Hamashiach. And the anointed's name is Yahushua. Some pervert the gospel. But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. So a person is cursed if they teach false doctrine. And the believers are cursed if they believe that false doctrine. As we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. That's the point. That's the point right there. Get another scripture. James chapter 3. James chapter 3 verse 8. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we the Most High, even the Father, and therewith curse we men which are made after the similitude of the Most High. So you have certain men that claim that they are Israelites and they believe in the Lord. You know, they praise the Lord. A lot of them even know the names, right? They know the name of the Father and the Son, but they teach false doctrine. So they're cursing men. They're cursing Israelite men, teaching them false doctrine. An example, Bishop Nathaniel of the IUIC. He teaches his congregation they don't have to know the names of the Lord and his Son. He teaches his congregation that the mark of the beast is Christianity. He teaches his congregation not to condemn Esau, the so-called white man. So he's cursing his congregation. He's cursing men. Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessing and cursing, meaning some of your doctrine is on point and some of your doctrine is off. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Right, so you teaching the truth, but then you're going to teach lies also? That means that you're not teaching the full truth. Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either a vine figs, so can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. So it's letting you know it's talking about doctrine, false doctrine. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. Right, so this wisdom, meaning what you're teaching, your philosophies. As a matter of fact, the word philosophy goes into love of wisdom. Okay, lover of wisdom. Okay, but that's false wisdom if you teaching false doctrine, man. Okay, so profanity and cursing has been broken down through the Spirit. All right, now get another scripture. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 4. There is one body and one spirit. So it's only one truth. Ain't no many truths. Every Israelite camp isn't teaching the right doctrine. Only Great Millstone. There's only one truth, not many truths. There is one body and one spirit. So dealing with the elect and the truth that they have. Even as you are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one power and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. And that's the point on that part. And the Lord gave us everything, man. You know, we conquered death. You know, the Son of the Most High, Yahweh Shai, he conquered death. And he has the power of the universe now, man. He has all power in heaven and earth. And he gave gifts unto men. He gave us this knowledge. But some men don't teach the full knowledge. Okay? Let me see here. Verse 14. That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men, by the trickery of men, and cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive, like Bishop Nathaniel of IUIC, like the so-called commanding General Yohana of the ISUPK, like Rakah of the GOCC, and many others. All right, and I'm gonna get one more scripture. Let's see, because it's in, here he goes. Yeah, it's in chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth. Let me read that again. Ephesians 4 and 29. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. Right? Because if you teach the wrong thing, you're going to cause the men that listen to you to be destroyed. Teach the full truth. If you're teaching false doctrine, if you're teaching anything outside of what the apostles and elders of Great Millstone teach, that's profanity and cursing. That's corrupt communication. Saying that Edomites can be saved. Saying that the mark of the beast is Christianity. Saying that Cornelius is an Edomite. Saying that the Gentiles in the New Testament are the actual Gentiles. All that's corrupt communication and going off, man. And you're going to be destroyed if you don't repent. So with that, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kudash, double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.
Shalom. Apostle Star coming back at you with this truth, giving all praise to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kudash. And this is another installment of GMS in Transit, Thinking Out Loud, GMS in Brief, and I'm gonna say whatever comes to my mind. You know, I was watching, I came across a couple of videos today. Today is April 4th, 2018, the year of prophecy. Came across a couple of videos dealing with China and Russia getting together, and China declaring that China will back up Russia against the U.S. And we all know how America is going to be destroyed by missiles being dropped on the United States. And that's all throughout the scriptures. You know, when it mentions the daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great, that great city, mentioned in Jeremiah, mentioned in Isaiah, mentioned in the book of Revelation. And that's how this place is going to be destroyed. And the main nation that's going to do it is Russia, which is mentioned in the scriptures as Gog and Magog. And it says how Russia, or Gog and Magog, will be a guard unto those Arab nations and African nations in the northeast and the Middle East. Nations like Iran, Libya, and those surrounding nations. So something's going to happen where they're going to do something to the U.S. is going to do something to one of those small nations, and Russia's going to back them up. And according to the news article, China's going to be right there with them. Ultimately, all of the allies of the U.S., they're going to turn against the U.S. Babylon, that's in Obadiah. They that were at peace with you have laid a wound under you. So those are your allies. So all your allies, all of your European allies, which means NATO, and the EU that possess these ICBM missiles will ultimately shoot missiles on this place. So I wonder what is going to happen, transpire, to make that happen, to make all of the U.S. allies to come against the U.S. Well, I got one word for you. Sound like Trump. Trump is going to do something stupid. You know, Trump's lips and mouth move faster than 10 times faster than his brain. He does stupid things. You know, the old saying is fools rush in. And he's a fucking fool, man. That guy's a fool. And I love him for that. Trump is my man. If he can't do it, no one can. Anyway, yeah, this Trump has to be the guy, Liquid Trump, he has to be the guy to set these wheels in motion, man, and make this thing happen. You know? And that's a beautiful thing. I'm looking forward to that mark, as I always speak on the mark. I always speak on the mark of the beast, which is the microchip, where a lot of these other Israelite groups that teach otherwise, they're going to be surprised. They're going to be surprised. And a lot of their followers are going to scramble. Wouldn't be surprised if they try to get with us, or they whatever they do. You know, only time will tell. But they're going to scramble, man. A lot of these doctrines that these different Israelite groups are teaching, that's teaching against the mark being the chip, it's going to be found out that the mark of the beast is the chip. And they're going to make it mandatory, as I always say, for the masses of the people to take that chip if they want to stay on the grid. And you know, I'm looking forward to 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, and 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter. Because the 16th chapter speaks about the nuclear devastation of this place. And you can't say, well, that can never happen. Well, that happened in Argentina back in the 90s. It's happening right now in Venezuela. You know, you got countries that the people are starving to death. And we see it coming right over here. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. Shalom, Apostle talking back at you with the truth, giving all praise to Yahweh, B'Shem Yahushua, B'Shem Rakak Kodash. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this, The Chinese Are Taking Africa Over. This is a video that was put up by Black Education TV. And the title of the video is Why Are Asian Men Marrying African Women? You know, you see the picture right there of these dark-skinned African, not African American, but African women on the screen. Anyway, the video's a little more than 18 minutes long. I just got 20 minutes in, and I had to make a video on it. Anyway, this shows you the power that the Chinese have now, the so-called Chinese, which we teach that are the Moabites. Oh, by the way, the scripture said Moab is my wash pot. So Moab is cleaning you Hamites out by taking your women. And this is not the Chinese men, and Chinese women are laying with African men. I met a individual, was he from Ghana or Nigeria, which the people of Ghana and the people of Nigeria, for the most part, West Africa, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Uganda. Uganda, they could be Jakes too. I would have to check that out. I mean, I'm not an expert on that. You know, certain brothers in Israel, they get all into these West Africans, and they can kind of trace some are Levites, some are Benjamites, some are Judites. But we know that Israel fled into the interiors of Africa, escaping the onslaught of the Flavian dynasty, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, and went as far west as they can, which is the west coast of Africa. Anyway, the Chinese in recent years have come into great power, great wealth. They have a great military. They're allies with Russia, and their gold, along with the Russians and other nations, are to be the next world power, whether it be Russia or China. And the U.S. is basically a sinking ship, whether you like it or not. Donald J. Trump is not going to make America great again. He's going to dig America into a deeper hole. And ultimately, America will be destroyed by the War of Armageddon, which they refer to as World War III. There will be a World War III. Anyway, now there's a history of Africans accepting other nations' religion or ways of life. When you Google the top religion or religions of Africa, there's two. Number one is the religion of Islam. Why? Because when you go back into the history, and I may do a video on that, it was the so-called Arab nations that conquered the dark nations. And when you conquer a nation of people, you make them speak your language, you give them your names, and you give them your religion. And that's why to this day, and that was forced on your foreparents, that you, the children of these Africans, freely accept the religion of Islam. The second major religion is Christianity. Why? Because Esau, with their Christianity, conquered you and forced upon you his religion, which is Christianity. And now you freely accept it. If you run into any so-called African, and I run into Africans every day, from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Cameroon, from Sierra Leone, from Senegal, and you talk to them and get into a conversation of dealing with religion. They'll either talk about their God Allah, or they'll talk about the Christian God. So the Africans really have no power. And I'm mainly focusing on the West Africans, which are for the most part Israelites. But anyway, here you have Chinese men and Chinese women actually falling in love with and marrying African women and African men and having children. So what are the children going to look like? They're going to look kind of dark, a little bit lighter. They'll have what's called chinky eyes. And basically, eventually, you'll have Chinese people running the whole country. Because what the Chinese do is, through their economic power, they're building Africa. So for the Africans to show them love, they're actually falling in love with Chinese men and Chinese women. So, I mean, what can you say about Hotep and Black Power over here in America? The Chinese are definitely taking over. Let me just, and this has been going on for a number of years. I just want to go to Google. I want to take the part of the title, Asian Men Marrying African Women. And let's see if we can get some numbers. The Most High said, Moab is my wash pot. That's how we know that they're the Chinese. Oh, here's one. This is this article goes back to 2016, and it's when you read the article. It says Uganda is worried about the number of Chinese men marrying their women. December 7th, 2016. China is a top investor in the East African country, accounting for as much as half of total foreign investment. Wow, that's a lot. Between 2014 and 2015, according to the, doesn't say that, I got to read the whole article, but according to the Ugandan immigration officials, there's one major downside. An increasing number of Chinese men are marrying Ugandan. Now, where's the Black Power at? Where's the pride for their fucking color, man? Even Professor Smalls, he made a statement, and this was years ago. It was on one of Sarnetta's videos, Sarnetta TV videos. He said, I remember this, man. He said, we black people, he said something to that effect, we over here are more conscious than the Africans over there in Africa. And I remember that, man. It says, trends and patterns in intermarriage. It says, okay, this is May 18, 2017, 12%. This gender gap has been a long-standing one. In 1980, 8% of recent married black men and 3% of their female counterparts were married to someone of a different race ethnically. Because, hey, a lot of so-called black people in Africa, based upon what I read, prior to this, was that they don't like their color. They don't like themselves, for the most part. There was a video put up, and if I can find it, I'll bring it up, where in Senegal, where there's a big thing where you have dark African women that are using skin cream to lighten their skin. And anytime you see a billboard of advertisement of a so-called black woman, she's always light. It says Afro-Chinese marriages boom in Guangzhou. I hope I'm saying that right. But will it be till death? Let me just click on this. And the Most High made us the prophets unto the nations. Jeremiah 1 verse 10. Anyway, it says, Afro-Chinese marriages boom in Guangzhou, but will it be till death do us part? See what the Chinese are doing, they're strategically dropping their seed in you black African women in order for this, because see, the Moabites know the seed come from the man. The seed come from the man, and the children, their loyalty is going to be to the Chinese. Okay, it says Guangzhou is witnessing many Afro-Chinese marriages, but the mainland's lack of citizenship rights for husbands and a crackdown of foreign visas, meaning families live in fear of being torn apart. Yeah, that's these Africans, actually African men for the most part, getting with Moabite women. Yeah, there you see this is 13 minutes in. You see a Chinese woman and an African man. That's a marriage taking place. So and anyway, with that, I'm just gonna say, I just wanted to give my thoughts on this concerning Moab. And Moab, though Moab, that nation is one of our enemies pursuant to Psalms. Was that Psalms 83? The table of nations that hate us, and they're going to come up under our feet. Okay, it says, and I'll leave you with one scripture. It says, this is in Psalm, the 2nd chapter. So keep your eyes on Russia, keep your eyes on the Middle East, keep your eyes on China, keep your eyes on Africa, keep your eyes on America. The major places in the world. Okay, it says Psalms 2 verse 1. Why did the heathen meaning nations? Right here the word heathen are talking about the actual nations, and the people imagine the feigned thing because they think they're going to rule, the Chinese think they're going to rule next along with the Russians. Or the Russians believe they're going to rule next. Okay, the kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointed, which are us, the children of Israel, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast their cord from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, Yahweh shall have them in derision, because he's going to destroy all of them. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say Shalom.
دمار ونار جرح كبير بالصوت العالي بدي اقول بس الصوت صغير يمكن نحن ولاد صغار بس صرختنا من القلب بدنا نمحي كل الخوف ونكون لك هلا المشروع خلص من شهرين لكن المشروع ما وقف. رح ترجع النجوم تضوي بهالعتم الطويل والأحلام اللي بنينا كلها راح تصير. بأعلى صوت بدي أقول بالغنية كل شي معقول. حدا يسمع حدا يشوف طفولتنا بتنام بالصوت الواحد. أملنا أكثر راح نصير أقوى. طفولتنا تكبر فيها المنية اللي عم نكتبها بوجع وخوف ودموع العين. رجعت تقابل وضحكات عم تطلع من كل مكان. لقينا الليل عم ترجع بالصوت الواحد. أملنا أكتر راح نصير أقوى. طفولتنا تكبر فيها المنية اللي عم نكتبها بوجع وخوف ودموع رجعت دقات القلب عالحياة عالحياة عالحياة.
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1536A, and today's date is April 4th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, This is Not About a Trade War, It's About Crashing and Resetting the Economic System. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, there's been a battle going on who's going to control the narrative as the economy comes down. And today we can see that Trump was out there and he just basically launched a missile at the central bank, at the corporate media, to let them know, no, this is not a trade war. The United States lost this war a long time ago. And what he was actually saying was that this has been going on for a very long time. I am not going to be responsible for the economy falling apart because the central bank, the deep state, and those individuals controlling the United States since 1913, they're the ones who destroyed the economy. And you can tell that he is pushing this narrative right now. We're going to get into that in a little bit later in this report. But let's start off with what is happening in the economy. And this economic system is deteriorating very, very quickly. It's accelerating right now. The housing market is coming down. The U.S. service sector is slumping. We can see that everything is starting to fall apart very, very rapidly. Now, if we look out in Toronto, we see prices of detached houses, they have plunged by 207,000 from a year ago. And sales, they are collapsing right now. And if we go back like 18 years ago, we can see that the Toronto housing market continually moved up and up and up. Actually, it barely dipped during the financial crisis. And what are we seeing today? Well, we're starting to see the whole thing start to fall apart. Home sales in the Greater Toronto Area plunged by 39.5% in March compared to a year ago. And we see that detached houses, they plunged by negative 46.3%. Semi-detached houses plunged by negative 30.6%. Townhouses, negative 34.2%. Condos, negative 32.7%. And new listings of homes for sale, down 12.4% from a year ago. And this is spreading. We talked about the New York economy, the New York real estate economy, and it's all falling apart. Real estate sales in Manhattan plunged by 25% in the first quarter from a year ago. Sales in the first quarter posted their largest drop in nearly a decade and reached their lowest level in more than 6 years. There were 2,180 sales in the first quarter compared with 2,892 last year. The high end of the market is getting hit the hardest because nobody is lowering their prices. They're keeping them pretty much where they are. And the reason they're doing this is because they don't feel they need to lower the prices just yet. We saw this happen during the 2008 crisis prior to this, where the housing market started to fall apart and people didn't understand what was going on. So they didn't lower the housing prices because they were being told that everything is fine, real estate doesn't go down, and everyone kept the real estate prices to where they were. And then they come to find out later on that they needed to lower their rates because the real estate market was falling apart. And basically everyone was trying to catch the market at this point, where the prices were coming down so quickly, they would lower their price by $10,000, but the market came down by $20,000, and they never could catch the market. This is why a lot of people had a very difficult time trying to sell their homes. Now, there is a map, which is the real estate doomsday map, and it covers the entire United States. And there's different portions of it where there's distressed, at risk, mid-tier, comfortable, and prosperous. Now, looking at this map, we can see most of the Northeast, the mid-centralized East, the Southeast. Well, it looks like they're either at risk or distressed. Moving out to the Midwest, same thing, at risk, distressed. I would say 85 to 90% of the country right now is at risk or distressed and mid-tier, which means that since 2008, nothing has been solved. The people who own their homes, they're still underwater. They're still having problems. Nothing has been fixed as of yet. Now, what we're seeing here is a system that is breaking down right in front of our eyes. Everything they did in 2008 was a gigantic illusion by manipulating pretty much everything. They manipulated the housing market by creating bubbles in 20 different cities. They manipulated the unemployment rate. They manipulated the stock market, which they're still doing. They manipulated the precious metals market. They manipulated the GDP numbers. They manipulated every statistical number you can think of. They manipulated it. And what was happening was, as we can see with our own eyes, is that the entire economic system has been breaking down one piece at a time. Now, going back many years, we said the retail industry would rip itself apart. And it slowly happened. Now, of course, they changed the story. First, they said, oh, retail's not doing well because of the snow, the bad weather. They started out with that. But then what happened was retail was doing poorly during the nice weather, and they didn't know what else to say. So then they started to say, hey, you know what? We can use the story that online is really having an effect on, what's going on in the retail market. Now, they couldn't explain away things like food and things like that. So they just pretended that didn't exist, and they just said, yeah, everything's moving to online. Of course, they didn't look at the actual numbers to see how many sales there were online compared to the brick and mortar stores, and you can see this is a very, very big difference. Everything is not moving as a 1-to-1 ratio. And of course, then they blamed it on Amazon. They built Amazon up very, very big to make it seem like everyone is shopping at Amazon, that nobody else has an online presence. Everyone is just going to Amazon, which is not true. And what we're seeing right now is the retail market has imploded, and what's going on here is that every other piece of the economic structure is imploding right now. And as we move forward, it's just going to get worse. Now, this brings us to what Trump has said out in the corporate media, saying that we are not in a trade war with China. That war was lost many years ago. Now remember, the economy is dead. The economy cannot be revived, cannot be resuscitated. It's dead in the water. The central bankers know it. Trump knows it. The individuals in the administration know it. And we can see what is happening right now. Everything is falling apart. And he's trying to tell everyone that, listen, this is not my doing. We lost the war with China a long time ago. And he's going to expand on this. Why did we lose this war? Who is to blame? Who put us in this situation? You're going to start to hear a lot of this information come out because he's going to start to build the narrative. And he's going to say, because of what they've done, we need to be put back on an even playing field. But of course, it's too late already. What he's really doing is preparing us for a reset. The economic system needs to be brought down. It needs to be reset. It needs to be done this way to wipe out the central banking system, to destroy them. That's the only way you can get rid of them. Remember, they're embedded in the system for over 100-something years. And it's not that easy to get rid of them. You just can't say, hey, let's just get rid of them. Because most of the government officials will not go along with it. So you need to start to build a case. Now, the central bankers, they are doing the same exact thing. They're going to try to bring this down and basically control the narrative, try to control the narrative, and blame it on Trump. This is what we're seeing right now. And we could see that the tariffs, the reciprocal taxes, the attack on the tech stocks, this is all part of the plan to bring the system down. And this is just going to get worse as time goes on. Now, if we throw in what is happening out in the Middle East, which we're going to discuss in a little while in the next report, Report B, what is happening in the Middle East is the next phase to all of this, where Trump is going to bring the troops home. And what this is going to do is this is going to wreak havoc in the Middle East on the petrodollar. And once this happens, I'm not talking about the next day, in the next months or two, we're going to see things really ramp up. And I'm saying once this happens, we're going to see it in the next couple of months. This plan is to hit the central bank, the deep state, from all sides to make sure all bases are covered. This is what we are seeing right now. And the race is on. And we can see right now, Trump needs to control the narrative. So when we move to the next phase, which is maybe auditing the Fed, maybe pushing through one of those bills where the dollar is now linked to gold, maybe it won't even be called the dollar at this point, but he needs to control the narrative to move to the next phase, to go after the central banking system, to reset the entire economic system. If he cannot control the narrative and blame it on the central bank, because once he blames it on the central bank and has proof and shows this is why this is all happening, then they can usher in all the legislation and everything else to go after the central bank. And I believe this is what he's trying to do right now. This is his strategy. And by taking down the petrodollar, by destroying the markets, by destroying the manipulation, by destroying all this, basically what he's going to do is he's going to completely reset the system, and he's going to explain why we need to do this and what the central bank and what these individuals have been doing for a very long time. He's going to explain who destroyed the system. And this is where we're headed. And this is a transition. This is still a transition where things are going to get a little rough. People are going to complain. People are not going to be happy about this. People like living in the dream world. Just like Q said with the Matrix, the red and blue pill. People like the illusion. It's much easier to live in the illusion than to hear the truth, because the truth is hard. The truth is real. Living in an illusion, well, that's easy because you just believe what they say and they continually to enslave you. It's a dream world. And once the truth hits, people are not going to understand what is happening. And this is why he's preparing and laying out the new narrative and trying to explain what has been happening. And this is going to be a build-up over time. So we are going to go through this transition. It's going to be very bumpy, just like we came on to the petrodollar. Now think about going back to 1971. The central bankers, the deep state, they had an entire narrative basically cooked up. Countries or investors were dealing in speculating on gold. We have a gas shortage. This is not our fault. It's other people over there. And this is the problem we have. This is why we need to come off the gold standard temporarily, of course, which is ridiculous because we've been temporarily off the gold standard for 40 plus years. But they made the case. They controlled the narrative. They also told us that, behind the scenes, as we're moving on to the petrodollar, it's going to be very difficult to get oil here, and we're going to see gas lines. We're going to have a credit freeze, and we're going to see inflation. And they continually made up stories that, yes, there's not enough fuel to go around the world. We're running out. There's shortages. We have to conserve. This is why we need the red and green flags. This is why we need to lower the speed limit from 65 to 55, because on a nationwide basis, we can save a lot of fuel because of the fuel shortage. And they made all of this up, and car companies were coming out with diesel engines, smaller cars, smaller engines, because we were moving on to the petrodollar system. But they had the narrative. They controlled it. They made people believe this is what's happening right now. The central bank is getting prepared with their narrative. The Trump administration is getting prepared with their narrative. And right now, he's building the case of why the central bank, those in power, should not be in power anymore. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.